meeting to order of the Cumberland County Commissioners Finance meeting. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. Minutes of January 6th Finance meeting. Is there any questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 6th, 2016.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda is a quarterly update from Affinity. So folks, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So this is a little dated because we've had to cancel a number of times, but I think it's all still pretty relevant, good information from what I can tell. So we just have to separate this into really two major talking points. One is an update on the financial performance of the facility since our last meeting. And the second one, which is pretty timely and critical, is talking about the future new payment initiatives from everybody, actually, Medicaid, managed care, traditional Medicare, ACOs, and the state. And a few discussions on marketing strategies that tie into that as well. So you each have a packet. On one side is the full PowerPoint. There is an insert in there about the star rating on the left-hand side as well, which we'll touch upon. And then the full report is here, and there's a number of copies up there for everybody. And certainly give one to Ray as well. And I think you'll remember maybe Larry talking about quality and efficiency. We talked about that payment and how we thought that would roll out. We do have a lot more information on that at this point. So starting with the financial performance of the facility, it's really all good news. The operating margin we talk about, now operating margin again is operating revenues less operating expenses. Doesn't include the depreciation and interest component. It's really the best way to measure performance because everybody has a different depreciation and interest type of calculation, and we'll talk about that later. So we started measuring in 2012, and the operating margin was at 3.4%, and current through the third quarter of 2015, they're at 7.8%. So there's been a nice increase in the operating margin between 2012 and 2015, adding 4.4% to that margin. So what you've done to make that happen is working, for sure. Always throw in census, obviously, to the performance, and your facility continues to be above the 90% range. The average of 92% is pretty much right in the ballpark of where the industry nationwide is sitting right at this point. So it's still a good, strong occupancy benchmark. We talked about this a little bit before, and I really can't emphasize this enough. So you can be completely full, but if you don't have the right mix, you still can have a bad financial performance. So you really want to have as many short-term Medicare managed care patients as you can, and that was your point of your rehab unit. And again, it's working. We look at both the rate, the length of stay, and the margin for the skilled mix. The facility, and for the new commissioner, LC is local competitor. So we didn't want to identify the local competitors, but that's what that indication is. So we measured your rates with the local competitors and with some other counties just to give those indicators, because there certainly is a big difference. So when we look at the average rate of what you're receiving for skilled care, it was $463.36 in 2014, and that was prior to you opening the transitions. So it's increased up to $503.41. Again, exactly what it was intended to do, by 12%. Your margin right now is 17.9%. So the calculation on the right-hand side there We look at your rate that you're receiving on those skilled care facilities, which again is Medicare, Medicare managed care. And then we pull out what the costs are. And right now, so per patient per day, you're making $78.85 on each patient per day, which makes the margin 17.9%. We use a benchmark of 20%, so you're slightly below the benchmark for that margin. But again, heading in the right direction. So to emphasize that again, payer mix is more important in total census. We continued the analysis of the local competitor market. So, you can see again, the red bar is the skilled mix that we're talking about, and you are below all of the local competitors. And I want to make a point about that is, the local competitors have been working on that forever, right? They already have their short-term units, they already really heavily marketed that, and you're pretty new to that component of it. So it's increasing. You are still below your mix that you budgeted for 2015 at this point. Is there anything new about that, guys? I don't want to say that if that's not correct.
It's still
Going up.
increasing steadily,
Okay.
but it is still, we're not where we want to be yet.
Okay. But it has increased 2% or 5.4 residents per day through the current quarter of 2015. And they budgeted 27 patients per day for the Medicare. So
And
it's,
currently today, we were at 27 today,
Wow.
which this 16, of course, is a higher than that budget. So we're still not where we need to be budget, but we are at 27.
good.
And we've been running strong this whole, last 2 weeks.
Yeah, ever since we put the RN case manager into
Yes.
Oh, good,
position.
good, great.
It's already working.
Oh, yeah, immediately.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully leave some other good information that wasn't good before we got here, huh? So,
I'm sorry,
okay.
could you go back to that slide?
Yeah, yep.
Could you explain to me that chart in the upper left? The average 2014 pay.
Yeah, yeah. So the red bar is your, and we call it again skilled mix, so I apologize for confusion. So it's traditional Medicare and then Medicare managed care residents. That's your number there, and then, the others, okay.
That's the only way
Oh,
we can
under
get it
other.
from the Medicaid cost
Okay.
report.
Okay, all right, traditional Medicare, I apologize, thank you, Jeff, is the red. The Medicaid is your purple line, and of course your Medicaid occupancy or welfare, medical assistance, number of names for that is the purple, and you have the highest Medicaid occupancy, which is what a traditional county home has. And the green is, we label as other, and Jeff just corrected me, there's managed care in there. We obtain this data off of the cost reports, which are filed by all nursing homes, so that's the methodology that they use to benchmark that.
Thanks.
A lot of talk about this in the last couple months, the Medicaid part, and I think we really want to hit on that last bullet point where $233 per day is your all-in rate. So going back up to the start, the daily rate, of course, the county nursing homes kind of went on their own and came up with their own reimbursement system, so they are not currently reimbursed the same as the rest of your nursing homes in the state. So there's really only 22 to 24 county homes, and they have their own gig. Now, in terms of, they get a daily rate, but they also get a number of other funding streams. So the daily rate for CNRC is $213.65, and it will remain $213.65. in this budget year. The good news is that the additional stream funding, which is the IGT money, which I think that at least 2 of you were on the call, or
Yeah, I was
you were on the call. So the intergovernmental transfer, which is pulling federal dollars down to the state to draw in additional funding, looks to be very successful. And again, I'm saying looks to be because until it's completely done, we're not going to bank on it. But the bigger the home, the better. And so for Claremont, it's a significant amount of money to come to the bottom line. When they first ran the projections, there was mistakes in them. So then we got our second run at them. So we put expecting 900,000 of additional money. The numbers that we've seen, I'm just going to say we'll reserve judgment on that until we're sure about how that's going to all work. Pay for performance is when your case mix index goes up, and Claremont has traditionally done very well with pay for performance and has received 8 of the 10 payments for that. So when we combine all of those pieces, the daily rate with the IGT money, with the pay for performance, then really what you end up getting for each Medicaid person is $233 a day as opposed to $213.65. And I just think that's important to note because there's always discussion about, yeah, but if we were privatized, we would get a different rate. But at the end of the day, you are getting additional funding other than just that Medicaid rate. We do think pay for performance is at risk to go away. It looks like it's not going to be funded moving forward, and I think it's important to strategize what that means to your CMI and how we should recommend you manage that in the future. So a lot going on there with the state program. And I want to come back to that because this is all going to change, and I think there was some discussion on the call about what does this mean for future periods. It's not going to look like this in future periods. It's all going to change. Labor's the highest cost driver, so we continue to benchmark you against your local competitors. And you know, again, you live right in the middle in terms of staffing. So this is available on public websites. Claremont runs about a 3.4, and you can see the others fluctuate below and above that, but you're about right in the average range of the local competitors.
Denise, so the local competitors, are they just in Cumberland County, or are you looking at just in the county? Okay.
Yeah, and we can do those. The staffing does affect your star rating, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, which is important, very important. We talked this through with Dana and Lynette about how we're looking at the benefit factor, because that's the difficulty for county homes to stay competitive in their local markets. Typically, the counties have a higher benefit factor, and it could cause some problems, and you've done things to try to deal with that, and it's been effective. So instead of putting it just as a percentage standpoint that we were in the upper right-hand column there, we identified it on a per patient per day basis, and kind of trended that. So if you look at your total salaries and benefits, which include payroll taxes, all that together, it has went down over the course of the last 3-4 years, and there's a slight projection for it to go up a little bit when you end 2015. I think that's still a fair assessment too. We've looked over the most recent data. So anyway, we took specific measures to make that happen, and they've been effective. And that's helped your margin. I mean, your margin that we talked about in the one graph would have been less had you not made these changes. And again, this is very important. So if you look at the purple, again, back to the benefit and taxes line, now we're comparing it to the local competitors in other counties. And again, CNRC, of course, as a county, because you have to remember, like the defined benefit program itself, no, the private sector doesn't have that. So just throwing that in there. But the CNRC is the purple line, and that you're higher than the local competitor 1 and 2, almost identical to 6. That's a nonprofit. And then the first 2 counties we compared you with, you're lower than, and again, basically match county number 4. So, Claremont is definitely in the mid to lower range on managing their benefit costs. We talk about days cash a lot in the industry, more so out of the government area, but Claremont's always been managed with private sector type of benchmarks in place. So we look at days cash, and the days cash has decreased. And again, for anyone new that's in the room, so this means that it would take, you could operate, if right now the facility stopped and no more cash payment, you'd be able to operate for 50 days. Okay, you could go 50 days with not receiving any funding. There has been a decline in cash, as you can see, for March, June, and September each quarter. But most of that's very easily explainable because number one, you haven't received all your money because of the state budget impasse. And there's some other issues around the debt payment. So we don't really see that trend as being any problem, and it should rebound back up. I have no idea when that additional state money is going to come in. So I guess we're all still on hold for that. A current ratio is just your liquidity. If you take your current assets less your current liabilities, where you're at. For CNRC, higher is better, so you're in a very good position at a 2.39 versus the benchmark of 1.5. So you have nice short-term liquidity. Long-term, again, as the facility continues to make money and reduce the debt, that number will continue to get lower. So just looking at the purple line as it's going down, that's a good thing. And that means they're continuing to make a profit, but paying down the debt. I'll let you talk about this. Jeff.
Yeah, this is a new calculation that we did for this time. There's some discussion about comparing the physical plant that's Claremont to the other facilities in the local competitive area. And basically all this does is it's a accounting calculation where it takes your depreciation expense divided by your assets to determine the physical age of your plant. And what this shows is that calculation shows that CNRC is 19.2 years old from an accounting standpoint, and from some of these facilities, like in the coming year, due to the investment that you make, if you made a recent investment, you don't have an increase in cost in your depreciation expense will be less in comparison. So the age of your facility will come down. So if you made a recent investment in your facility, it will show a lower number. Or if you haven't made any investment recently, it'll be a higher number.
So the average in this market is 10.2. And as you know, this market's very competitive. There's a very competitive market out there. Okay, so now, all of this changes. Everything that we talked about really transforms. So all these new payment models are coming, and they're coming quickly. So the traditional Medicare is going to be kind of all wrapped up in ACOs, which is accountable care organizations, bundled payments, and there's a required joint model out there. You just so happen to hit all of them. So some of the geographic areas in Pennsylvania are not involved in bundled payments at all or required, and some parts of the state don't have any ACOs. You have both. So for Claremont, you have River Health, which is an ACO, and you will be required come April 1st to participate in bundled payments, and that's decided by your MSA. So that is going to be here before, it's already here. So River Health already started up and the bundled payments are April. For Medicaid, that whole system is moving
Sorry,
to
Denise, what's the name of the ACO again?
River Health.
River Health? And are they new or are they?
Yep, just started up in January. Yep, and we have a managed building. They're actually, River Health is between Pinnacle and Susquehanna Health Systems in Williamsport. So there's facilities in Harrisburg and Carlisle, and there's facilities in Williamsport and Muncie area that are a part of River Health. The Medicaid environment goes to managed care. That's Governor Wolf's program. It's called MLTSS, Managed Long-Term Services and Support. And there's all this is capitated payments, talks about quality, it's negotiated rates. So now you'll have a Medicaid rate, you know what it is. It's $217 or whatever. It's not going to really be that way. You're going to have to negotiate with various payer sources and various insurances. But we'll start with River Health because it's here and it's now. Okay, so here's their criteria, which would be typical for any ACO criteria. You got to be in good standing with state and federal regulations. They want to look at your outcomes. Well, they're not going to want to look. They are looking at your outcomes. They've already looked at your outcomes. They want us to improve as an industry on advanced care planning. They'll eventually want to know our satisfaction survey, so that's important to be measuring on your own. And the big indicators are hospitalization, rehospitalization, length of stay, and return to home statistics. And they've already looked at that for all of the facilities in these MSAs. And they want you to have a 3-star or above in order to be a preferred provider. And they want low cost. So I always kind of love the part out, be low cost, but have a high star rate. Be low cost, but have a high star rate. Sometimes that's an interesting balance.
It goes back to the government from more for less.
Yeah, it's really an interesting balance. So significant factors about the ACO, it's big. So the whole intention of hospitals is to get you out as quick as possible, right? And into a safe environment. And nursing homes are very much a safe environment because we're low-cost providers with good outcomes. So if you're a preferred provider for the ACO, you will get a waiver on the Medicare residents, which means they don't have to have the three-day qualified hospital stay for you to get a skilled rate, that's what all your efforts have been about, is to get that skilled rate. Now, if a resident chooses, so if it's your mother or father, and they choose to go to a facility that's not a preferred provider, they would have to pay private pay. Whereas if you choose to go to a preferred provider, then you'd be paid for by your insurance. So it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So you want to be a preferred provider. They are requiring a 3-star above, but I just informed Ray and your team over here that there seems to be some confusion about that, and CMS, I believe, has made an error on that. So I'll be talking to them later about CNRC getting into that preferred provider status, and they're calculating that, and we can talk about that in a little bit. And then we'll talk about average length of stay, because that's really what it's all about. It's not necessarily that you'll get less money, but they'll push the average length of stay down for the residents. And that'll save them money. And all preferred providers have to be approved by CMS. So for Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services have to approve you to be a preferred provider. Then there's the bundled payments. And you're in the MSA, Harrisburg, Carlisle area for the bundled initiative. Again, any hips or knees will be in a bundled payment. And that means that the hospital, say they get $10,000 for your knee, and they give $2,000 to Claremont, and they give whatever to the home health agency, and they keep X amount of dollars. If you come under that amount, there's incentives that you can get more money, and if you go over it, then you're gonna lose money. So it's that capitated rate. The point of bundled payments is to avoid unnecessary hospitalizations. It's about coordinating care. It's about reward for quality performance, the 3-day hospital stay waiver again, for the star rating. And the bottom line is, and we talked about this at the last meeting, you need more referrals. So maybe before you got 40 referrals to average 20 residents per day. Now you're going to need 60 referrals to get those 20 per day, because your length of stay is going to go down. And then they will make it go down because they'll be involved with the care planning. It's called CCJR, so you will hear about it here in your local community. The only way that you can get out of being in a CCJR from a hospital perspective is if they've already put in a voluntary program. There's 62 MSAs. It's Pittsburgh and Harrisburg, Carlisle, and those are the counties that are involved or required. And it's been created by the ACA Accountable Care Act. The MLTSS, so every single payment payer type you have is changing. So the MLTSS is Governor Wolf's program. When a resident is going to be referred into a nursing facility and they're a medical assistance resident, there's an assessment completed now. That assessment's going to change, and the first step of that assessment that does not exist now is to make a referral into the LIFE program. The LIFE program stands for Living Independently for the Elderly, and they're everywhere. There's LIFE programs everywhere. I was looking at your strategic plan that we worked on 6 or 7 years ago, talking about the LIFE program and what that means to Claremont. That will change the dynamic of a lot. When you join the LIFE program, you give up your Medicare and Medicaid status, and the LIFE Center takes care of you A to Z. The good news is, since you're already in the ACO and the mandatory joint, is Cumberland County is the last region to start up for the MLTSS program. So Western Pennsylvania goes first, East second, and you guys end up, Central Pennsylvania ends up last. So that's a good thing, because Medicaid's a big dollar amount for you guys, so you'll be able to kind of learn from everybody else by the time you get to that payer type. It's the same basic measures. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's about hospital readmissions, discharge planning, 5-star rating. So Governor Wolf also wants every building to be a 3-star or above to participate in some of the Medicaid programs as well. You just can't get away from it. Okay, average length of stay. This is a big issue. So right now, CNRC's average length of stay is higher than all of the facilities we manage. Now, let me tell you why, because we're already in those managed care programs that push the length of stay down, except for the other Central Pennsylvania facility, which is on the 2 ends. So the folks in Central Pennsylvania have not had that average length of stay driven down yet. It will be. So we'll be watching this, and you'll see it drop, because when the other care coordinators get involved, then they're going to get them home quicker as we care plan and coordinate with the other providers. So right now, you're still getting a fairly high number of average length of stay. The hospital readmission rates, So they've been working on this for years, and this is just the national averages. I just want you to see how it's working. This is an initiative by CMS, and it's been effective. So the 2011, over 18% hospital readmission rates from nursing homes, and look at 2014, it's under 15.5%. Each hospital has their own goals set up as to what they want the hospitalization rate to be, but that's something that Claremont has to track because this is what the payers want. They want low rates. I'd like to explain this. Star rating cut points. Okay, so it's not just that you have to perform well in certain areas, Department of Health, deficiencies, staffing, and quality measures. That would be too simple. It's not like that. These are the cut points. So if one home performs better than the other, they can knock you out of your star rating regardless of how well you perform. So it's a collective number. At the end of each quarter or whenever they measure this, they just take all the nursing homes in the country and they're cut like this. So if you're at the top 10%, you get a 5.
And grading on the curve.
Yeah. If you're in the next 23.3%, you get a 4. So it's not just, you can't sit and calculate it because you don't know what the outcome of the other nursing facilities are across the country. That's the system. So now, what does that really mean? We calculate ours all the time because you want to make sure you're there, but we can't guarantee that you're going to hit a higher star even if you're, like you said, the Department of Health survey was good. Well, if everyone's Department of Health survey is good,
You can.
may not get there.
You can give pretty good odds
Yeah.
without being able to say definitive.
Okay. Yep. But I don't like people disappointed by, oh my gosh, we improved in these 4 measures and we still didn't increase our star rating. Okay, well, what did everyone else do? Here's the star ratings, and this was as of, we updated this report a couple times. So it hasn't changed a lot in this area. There's a lot of below average star ratings in your county. This is what it is. I do not see these improving because right now Department of Health is on a tear. And there's a lot of deficiencies happening right now. So I don't think they're going to get better.
It's good for us.
Yes, for you. Yeah, that's good news. Yeah, so you had a good outcome on your Department of Health inspection, and that will weigh heavily into your star rating. So marketing fundamentally changes. I work with a company out of Tennessee, and there was a bunch of us that got together. In the South, they've been doing this for a while, and it was a discussion about you don't really just deliver candy anymore to your referral sources. You have to all of a sudden now be an expert about quality, efficiency, and cost, because it doesn't matter how many baskets of flowers you deliver, it doesn't matter. If you're a 1-star and your length of stay is too high and your costs are too high, you're not going to get the patients. So it's not all about relationships anymore, it's about how you perform. So we did make a recommendation to intensify your data gathering so that you can make sure to look at really what is the issue now. What's insurance, who's River Health, what your hospital is doing, what is your hospital doing, what's their joint program look like. Are your physicians a part of River Health? Okay, some physicians are in River Health, some physicians are not in River Health. Why did you lose the referral? Who was in a bundled payment? All these things happen so quickly. I actually heard that one facility didn't even know, they accepted a resident and they didn't even know it was a River Health resident because nobody was tracking it. Because all these things are coming on very, very quickly. Just looking at your trends again, how many referrals you've gotten and how many you've admitted and what you've denied and what were lost. Okay, so there's your trending there. As we continue to look at this, you'll have to get more referrals in order to keep your numbers up. There's no other way, because your length of stay is probably going to go from about 28 days down to, I'm going to say 16 days. So the talking points are overall the financial margin is improved, not quite meeting expectations, but still keeping pace. Your Medicaid dollars are improving, which is significant. And item 2 is, though, everything's about 5-star, everything's about hospitalization rate, length of stay, and cost. So our whole dynamic is really changing. Claremont added the clinical liaison position, which you're already aware of. And she's a nurse, so, you know, I think Lisa can be integral in terms of meeting those measurements that you have to meet. Discharge planning will be a change for the people in central Pennsylvania, because what will happen is the home health will come right in with the nursing home and be a part of the care plan. And we're not used to being told what to do. All of a sudden, that's going to change. So that's what's happening in the world of nursing homes. And you know, that was a lot of information.
Let me just ask a question. I mean, if I understand, then the focus is on, you know, cost control. Is this part of, you know, the overall effort at rebalancing? In other words, because I know in Pennsylvania, you know, we have a lot of people in long-term or in nursing homes, you know, compared to other states. This has been talked about for a long time, but I mean, is this all aimed at moving folks who, when they can, out of the nursing home, back into the community?
Yeah, this should do the trick.
Home base.
They've been working on it for a long time, and they've had some success. Like you can see the numbers coming down, but not to where they wanted it to be. This should do the trick, because once you start referring the long-term residents into the life center is going to not want to pay a nursing home, so they're going to do everything they can to keep you out of institutional care. So, you know, this will bring down some numbers.
Are the dollars going to follow, you know, the senior citizen? You know, in other words, is there going to be, you know, funding available for their care, community-based setting as opposed to in a nursing home?
The only thing they identified so far with that MLTSS program is the life centers, but I can tell you that the South relied heavily on the life centers, and it was effective. It brought their bed count down for nursing homes. So it looks like to me that Pennsylvania is putting a lot of their money into that to make that effective strategy to bring the numbers down. Well, plus the managed care, the managed care is going to shorten that length of stay. It's gonna, I think it's gonna work.
Okay.
It's going to work from a financial standpoint. Not anybody who's had managed care experience,
Yeah.
either as a victim or a perpetrator, can tell you not everybody's always happy
Nope.
with those decisions. They don't feel that they're ready to go. They don't feel like the facilities at home are at a level or a state that they can sustain. So
Yep.
along with this comes a lot of headaches, because in fact you are, it may be against our own judgment of the people who run the plans.
Yeah.
That, you know, a person could use an extra day, an extra week, or whatever, and, you know, you have the proverbial and much maligned bean counter back at the MCL making this decision without being there and being, you know, what's all.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, you know, I think my primary concern is, you know, are these folks still going to get the kind of care that they deserve and need? When we saw what happened with, you know, the closing of our state hospitals, and not only folks who suffer from mental illness, and now all the services are available and there for folks who suffer from mental illness, even though, you know, we're supposed to receive funding to, you know, address those needs, and I don't think it's really base, but I know also, on the other hand, that the senior citizens themselves, or some older frail citizens, they don't really want to be in a nursing home either. So the question is, are the home community-based services going to be sufficient for their individual needs? And if you're in a nursing home right now, you get the full array of care.
Yeah. I think that there'll be problems, you know, of course, there's going to be problems, and I think if they see that hospitalization rate climbing back up because, you know, people are going out too soon, you know, there could be some rebound. I highly recommend that you appeal everything you can appeal, and the resident appeals everything they can appeal, because you can certainly win by getting an extra day or an extra couple days. Western Pennsylvania's had this managed care product for a while, and we've been successful at appeals to say, not ready, you know. So in other words, if they say this resident with these diagnoses get 9 days, well, then at day 8, we're going, no. You know, they have these other problems, they're not ready to go. And you have to spend that time to plead their case.
Yeah. Now, I understand our AAA, our Office of Aging, is still going to be doing a level of care
Yes.
assessments.
Yeah.
How is that going to change in terms of what our employees at AAA are going to have to learn, or?
They're required to send them to the life program. They're required. That's going to be part of the assessment. So they're trying to catch them before they get to the nursing home. You know what I mean? They're trying to, you know, avoid anyone going in that doesn't have to go in too soon. And they're trying to educate them to that program. So it really looks to me like they're putting a lot into the life centers as the answer to deal with the traditional long-term resident.
So what's the definition of life? I mean, what is a life center? What are we talking about?
Yeah, it's an interesting model. So the Life Center is a building. It does have bricks and mortar, but it's really a home care program. So you give up your Medicare and your Medicaid, your traditional Medicare and Medicaid, and the Life Center gets paid one flat fee for you. So if it's for your mother and they get $13,000 a month or whatever that is, they have to take care of her, A to Z. Her doctor, her therapy, her nursing home, her assisted living, hospital, everything. So if your mother goes in and she needs lab work and a hospital visit, well, then they probably just profited, they probably made $12,000 that month because she was healthy. If she goes into a nursing home in the hospital, they might just lose $2,000 that month. So the whole goal of the Life Center is to keep them healthy.
Is the life centers obligated to take everyone regardless of the medical risk? Or are they going to cherry pick like some of the HMOs did back in the old days? Because obviously you can maximize your revenue by taking only the healthiest patients.
Yeah.
And finding reasons not to take people with dementia, for instance.
Yeah, there is some criteria that they can reject. Now, the resident can opt out anytime. So say they join, but they go, not for me, they can go back onto their traditional program. Some of the life centers have dementia care and some don't. You know, so again, the ones who don't are going to reject them with that diagnosis. And they're only day programs.
Okay.
That's all it is.
So they go home at night?
Every night. And they don't even have to go, you know, like they don't have to go to the day program. They don't have to do that. They can be a member of the Life Center and not participate in adult daycare. A lot of people think the Life Center is an adult daycare. It's an adult daycare on, you know, speed. Yeah, on steroids. It's this much of it's an adult daycare, the rest of it. I mean, I frequented the one in Pittsburgh, and they did everything from board their dog, right? The resident went to the hospital, they boarded the dog to put air conditioning in. You know, they went to people's houses and put air conditioning in to try to avoid them from being hospitalized. So they're gonna do whatever, their job is to keep them healthy. That's the only way they're gonna make money. So it's a good model. I mean, you know, if you think it through, makes sense. You know, the model makes sense, and,
Where are these life centers located, or are they?
everywhere.
They're all-
Where's yours? I mean, there's one in Franklin, there's one here. I mean, they're in every county. I've not, when we were here before, there was none in Carlisle, but there was, the startup was happening in Franklin, Harrisburg. It was all around you. But now I'm not aware of, maybe Snyder County doesn't have one, but almost every county has a life center
Where can I find a list of these life centers?
online.
Online?
And when you say people go home is into not back to the nursing home,
No.
would be to a private residence of some sort.
Independent living, we have, you know, some CCRCs, so, we'll have like residents in our independent living that'll go, that are life members. And if we didn't have a life contract, we would lose them, because they would actually have to go to another nursing home. So you want to have a life contract, you know, in place. And you want to take care of them. Now, you know, you might turn them down because you might get $200 and they're going to cost $800. So, you know, that's a factor too. You don't have to take that resident. You know, depends on what your policies say. Let me clarify that. But
Oh, and as a county, you understand, as a county
That's right.
facility, different than being
that's right.
a non-private sector facility, particularly a for-profit.
Yep. Yep. So you definitely, for Claremont, it's important to have a life contract because you want to take care of your residents. You know, but they're interesting places. I would recommend you stop and see. That's very interesting concept. And like I said, they modeled, when they took like the 50 states and ranked them a number of years ago, it was in the 90s, I was sitting at this conference and all the light bulbs went off. I went, oh my gosh, look what they're doing. I mean, and it was in the 90s, and then there was a range of bankruptcies that happened shortly after the changes they made that time. I truly think there's going to be some fallout again. I think the buildings that don't put quality up there are headed for some trouble too. I mean, these are pretty strict guidelines, you know, when you talk about the length of stay and hospitalization and the star rating. It's hard to achieve all those, and the cost. It's not easy to achieve every one of those factors. It's interesting times, but I think that, you know, there's some good news here, and there's some preparation and work to be done.
Now, are the life centers going to be rated too?
A good question. They're just now rating home health, and home health is either preferred status or not. And they're really going to get hurt too, because like River Health has home health agencies, and then, you know, there's some that aren't in it. And if you're not in that, that's going to leave you out in the cold. So it's not just nursing homes. I mean, obviously the hospitals and the home health agencies and are the biggest factors. So, but a nursing home, on a positive note, because I'm glass half full, is a cheaper cost option than some of the other options. So I think nursing homes, if they can keep their quality or position nicely, than some of the higher cost models. I mean, we are a good quality providers with lower costs than some of the other models. So, I mean, that's a way to look at it.
The big cost, the big cost is keeping people in the hospital.
Yes.
And then having to send people back to the hospital. And I think that readmission rate is really crucial. You know, if you've got that, then you're keeping your patients from going back to the really, if you're hemorrhaging money all over the place at a hospital. And that's a huge thing in your favor. Then you kind of get everything else, all your other counts.
Right. So if you put that together, okay, So traditionally, they get admitted, go back to the hospital, get admitted, go back to the hospital. Rates were high, 30%, 40%. So what was happening is every time they go back to the hospital and they get the 3-day stay, the nursing home would get the money again. Okay, so then you get that $500 a day again. Well, that's gone. So now, if you're not a preferred provider under River Health, and that's not going to be everybody, you're still going to have your traditional Medicare, but when you take part of your pool and you go, okay, well now, if I'm not a preferred provider, I'm not getting anything whenever they bounce back and forth. And not only am I not getting, the resident would maybe have to pay private pay as opposed to pay. Now, there's risk pools, and I just want to point this out because you might get asked to give money in a risk pool. So we have a building that's in River Health, and we paid $130,000 into the risk pool. We gave them $130,000. Why? Well, because there's these measurements over here that said if we, number one, there was only 2 preferred providers in our market. So I was okay with that $130,000 because our referrals were this big and their referrals were this big. So in the risk pool, if you meet all these criteria, not only do you get your risk pool back, but you get more. And we took the gamble that we would get more. We're a 4-star building, you know, like the stay is short, the discharge planning. So there's all these criteria that River Health has and other ACOs have in this risk pool. So if you're asked to give money, you have to evaluate, okay, how much are we going to give and how much are we going to get back? You know, based on what we know and based on what we're able to control. But that came out of nowhere. That literally came out of nowhere. We were surprised by it. But I feel confident it will pay off in the long run. 130,000 is less than 10 residents. So if you're a preferred provider and you're getting the referrals, you're going to make that up. But anybody can be dropped from grace in a minute. You know, one bad survey, I don't care how good you are, you know, drops your star rating. So that's just going to always be an obstacle that we're going to have to work with. And like I said, I told your management team to be cautious because CMS made some errors and approved some people that shouldn't have been in the pool of preferred providers. So I would watch very cautiously. You know, if you're being excluded, watch what the other providers, because they hire private contractors to do this work, and you know they make mistakes too. So watch out for yourselves, because somebody else isn't necessarily going to watch out for you.
What's the rationale, 3-part question, 1 question, 2 questions. What's the rationale for your $110,000? Who set the rate? And what stops it from being extortion?
Yeah, well, that came up with the nonprofit board, and I had to justify it. But when it's a voluntary program, and CMS, it's a voluntary program, but CMS approves it. You know, it's just a commitment, I guess, that you're willing to make. And if you don't make it, you could be thrown out of the preferred provider status. And somebody said to me, what happened to patient choice? And you have patient choice, but if you choose this over this, you might be paying. So it's an interesting time. I'm not sure how I could not defend.
Where does that $110,000 go?
Well, we still have, it'll go back to the providers that perform well. So
This is gambling. It's like Wall Street.
it didn't go over well. I can tell you this, like, and I had, you know, legal counsel review everything, but it's a gamble.
Literally.
It's
will be running odds on this within the next year, I guarantee you.
But if you look at the numbers, like if you would look at the numbers and you say, between Pinnacle and, you know, your local hospital or whatever, and if you look at all your referrals, you know, you've got to add them up and say, what's the outcome going to be here as long as we're in this preferred provider pool? How long would it take me to recover my 130? Now, There's other criteria, Larry. There's if you use their discharge planning tool effectively, if you use the technology that they provide effectively. So it's not all just money. You know, it's length of stay. It's whether or not your home health care planning thing was done correctly. So it's going to be interesting. Now, they did delay. We were supposed to start January 1, and now it's February. Jeff calculated that even if we messed up, there would maybe be a 40% loss of that 130. But if there was a 40% loss of that 130, and we still had 300 referrals, and the next nursing home had 175, we'll take it. When he gave me 40%, I said, you know, we'll sign up. It is different. It is very different. Now, your big pool of traditional long-term Medicaid people that are in your facility are protected because it's only new residents for medical assistance that go into MLTSS. Now, if one of your longer-term residents go out and come back, then they would be at risk for being in the MLTSS program. So I think it's important for the county homes to know that their vulnerable population that exists now is protected. Like I think there is criteria you guys need to know that help the people that you serve, because you do serve.
So in other words, anybody who's currently at Claremont is not going to be affected.
Right. Right.
What did you mean when you said if they go to one of the life centers, they would give up their Medicare and Medicaid?
Yeah.
Reverse mortgage?
You literally, your traditional Medicare card is gone, like you don't have any more traditional Medicare, and you will not get a medical assistance card either. So it's gone, and it's a hard sell.
Well, explain how that works. I mean, in other words,
You have
give
no
it-
insurance.
somebody gives, okay, and they enter into the, so does that mean the life center then receives the payment?
Yeah.
Or is it through the managed care organization, or?
The Life Center receives all the payment for you
Okay.
for Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay.
And
And then if somebody who's been doing the daytime life center and they're providing some kind of alternative for at nighttime, they're paying for that. If they
Yes.
need to go back in the nursing home, then the
pay
life
for
center
that.
pays for that.
Pay for that. They pay a daily rate. They're paying the home health person that's with you at night. They're paying for your lab work. They're paying for your doctor.
All right, what about incidentals or anything like that, if you're previous to the Medicaid?
That would be theirs, as long as it's not.
I think right now, for example, somebody who's on medical assistance in a nursing home, they're allowed an allowance, I think, of something like $40 a month or something. How does that work in this situation? What happens? Do they have any money
Any
that?
kind of disposable
Yeah,
resources. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, they don't want to.
And you said this is
Rope them into not-
this is voluntary though? So-
Yes, it's voluntary.
So like 60 days later, I decide I don't like this situation,
You can get
I
out.
get my Medicaid or Medicare card back?
Yeah.
Jim, we normally have between 1 and 2, sometimes 3 persons that are in Claremont, one of the life programs. Some of them are skilled and some of them are custodial. Because skilled normally only lasts for about 30 days is what they allow us. And then after that, it's at a custodial rate, which is back to the MA rate. But we are already in contract, we're already participating as a skilled nursing facility for life.
Okay.
It's not huge, like I said, it's 1, 2, 3 people, but it's,
But
we have-
consider now that AAA is going to refer every single one to the life, it's got
it
to
would be
grow.
more. It would be more.
So it's good that you have a contract now.
Yeah.
You want to partner with them. You want to partner with everyone. Is that the right answer, Gary? You want to partner with everyone.
You want to position yourself in the food chain.
Yeah.
appropriately.
Yes. Yes. So, you know, like I said, we had some pushback from the board, you know, saying, well, what if this, what if that? I said, yeah, but what if we don't? I mean, if you don't participate, if you choose not to participate with life, if you choose not to participate with ACO, where are you going to be? Nowhere. I'm not sure that there's a lot of options, because it seems like the options is not very smart business, right? So sometimes there's not really a lot of choice in how you conduct business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does staff have any other questions, comments? Does anybody have any questions?
Sounds like Vermont. Vermont's been doing this for years.
Yes.
And they've had issues, you know, I mean, they had a lot of things, but they've been doing this since like late 90s, early 2000, you know, with regards to the home care as opposed to the nursing home care, but they've had a lot of challenges. I mean, and
Well, the concept of home care sounds so wonderful and so cost efficient, but I can tell you from personal experience with my mother up in New York, whatever she has in terms of home care, she don't want to go into a nursing home.
Right,
It's a patchwork quilt.
right.
She's got stuff from the feds, she's got stuff from the state, she's got a program from the county that she's in, she's got private sector stuff from the church she's in. You patch all that together, it gets mostly what she wants, but not everything. So, you know, again, if you kind of pull a curtain behind the nice concept, it can be very, very difficult.
Very difficult.
yeah, I mean, they're hoping that, you know, they want to keep people healthy, et cetera, but people are not invincible. You know, sooner or later, someone's going to break a hip, or someone with dementia is going to get hurt or wander out.
And it's not like doctors talk to each other.
And, you know, for us,
Neurologists don't talk to internists,
Yeah.
don't talk to phlebotomists. Nobody, I mean,
you know, besides rehab and what we have here, people who come in long-term are people who have no other option. They can't stay at home anymore, it's too dangerous.
Now, they're trying to address your concern through the ACO, okay? So in the ACO criteria, you have to participate in their telemed, in the technology program. So if your doctor doesn't participate, you know, you want the doctors to participate. And the good news is, it is very nice from a clinical perspective to just pull up on your screen and have everyone's report. There's the lab, there's your neurologist, there's the PCP, there's your nursing home health, there it is. The continuity of care is a big deal. And that's the problem that you're facing with your mother. You know, this guy gives these medicines, this guy gives these medicines, nobody knows what's going on. So the ACO is trying, CMS is trying to wrap that up. And then the new criteria for electronic medical record, I didn't read that right. So there's a new, the new criteria for mandating the electronic medical record is out now. They've never enforced it because nursing homes never put the money into it, but it will be enforced. And then once everyone has electronic medical record, then there should be no reason for these problems.
but you remember when all that money went into electronic medical records for hospitals?
Yeah.
And they had 12, 15 different proprietary, non-interoperable
Yeah.
EMR systems. It was,
Right.
it was probably not done the best.
Right. So they're trying. I mean, you know, everything you're saying they're trying, but, you know, there is no full process. I still believe there is a place for decent cost, high quality nursing homes because, and I hate to say somebody's here from an LTAC, but, too much what to say. But, you know, when you look at an LTAC, they're a lot more money. So when you go from the hospital to a rehab or to an LTAC, oh my gosh, you know, that's a lot of cost there. But if you go from the hospital straight into nursing home, we're still a decent cost provider. I still think that we have the better product right now, as long as we can deal with those 4 issues. And those 4 issues really are everything to be monitoring on a regular, every day.
Yeah, I think in a lot of respects, the assumption is that nursing homes cost us too much money and there's too many people in nursing homes that don't need to be in nursing homes.
Right,
That's the assumption, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So then the question is, so some of these folks now are gonna end up, with community-based care. The question is it really gonna be cheaper? And is the quality of service like skilled care, if somebody needs it, gonna be there for the individual?
Well, there's always bad actors in everything, right? There's always bad actors. So the other goal is to eliminate some of the bad actors. So if you all of a sudden, we go from 780 nursing homes in Pennsylvania down to 650, well, there's more opportunity for the 650 because it is going to bring down some numbers. And then, the projection for the increase in the age bracket, of course, people are healthier. But you know what I mean, the capacity, they want the capacity of a certain amount. But if you have like a special focus facility that's been in trouble over and over and over and over with the Department of Health, I think they have a really bad situation right now. I think they're in a very bad situation. They're in a very bad situation. So there's going to be some fallout, right? There's going to be some fallout. Every time there's a change in reimbursement, there's fallout. As long as you're not in the fallout, it's all looking good.
Denise and Jeffrey, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And your presentation.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come in front of the board? Yes?
Could I give a quick update since we have Monday's nursing home meeting?
Sure.
There is a new GASB that we're required to implement in 2015. And what it does is it moves our retirement out of a footnote into the financial statements of the county. And it has the potential, on the full accrual basis, it will affect the entire county. But it will affect the nursing home on all of their financial statements. And the controller's office does not have the actuarial report yet, so we do not know how that's going to affect the individual funds. But what I will say is we fully pay the ARP, but there's additional footwork that's done behind the scenes, and some of it is based on market, and of course the market hasn't been as good as it's been in the past few years. So I'm expecting a little bit more negative impact than I was originally expecting. So when we know that number, we'll update the nursing home's financials. We're going to work on trying to figure out a way to pull that out separate and keep running the numbers so that we can still manage the home and not see those big fluctuations based on the market and still make smart decisions based on how the nursing home is doing and continue to pay the ARP according to what the actuaries require. Does that make sense?
And it makes sense to continue to pull it apart so that you can see what that really number is, as opposed to what you're doing operationally.
Thanks, Denise.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. We're adjourned. Thank you.